Welcome back to part 2 of our Elimination Chamber Call the Spot on the Card edition here, the 14th edition of the Call the Spot on the Card, if you just kind of go by, like, themes. We've had multiple double editions and triple editions in the past, so we've done about, 20 of these or so by now. And out of doing all those, we've never had a situation where we've had 7 different people that we've had to take into consideration. So we had a little conundrum. We needed to create a 7th category. And originally, as I mentioned before, the Call the Spot was based off of a 5-point breakdown. And eventually we created a 6th one. And the only thing that made any sense in my mind was Hall of Fame. Well, 7th spot comes around. How do you balance out the Hall of Fame? If you look at, say, the 5-point breakdown, you've got the released was the bottom of the barrel, and the main event was the top of the food chain. You got somebody who's not in the company versus somebody who is the most trusted to draw for the company. You got the mid-card and the upper mid-card and that kind of a thing. Well, how do you balance out somebody who has legacy that is long-lasting and is highly revered and has basically carved their niche in the company for, historical reasons and stuff? You give them the Chris Benoit treatment. So that's what I'm referring to this as. You can also refer to it as erased or nullified or something like that. I currently have it in my notes as the Chris Benoit treatment. Essentially what that is you are not just released from the company, you are removed from the company in every way that they can possibly do. Mm-hmm. If they are going to refer to something that you were in, they're going to try not to say your name. Look at what happens with the Royal Rumble. They've now gotten to a point where instead of saying 2 men have won from the number 1 spot, Chris Benoit in 2004 and Shawn Michaels in 1995, now they actually start saying only 4 men have won from the number 1 or number 2 spot, including Shawn Michaels, Rey Mysterio, that kind of a thing, and they don't say Chris Benoit.
Yeah.
The unfortunate thing about that is
none of these guys deserve that treatment.
None of these guys do, and it's bad enough when we do the released, and we're like, man, these are like some good, because usually when we're doing these Call the Spots, we've done some in the past where it's been like a group of random people, like we did the Valentine's Day edition where it was all like love-themed characters, and we had the world's largest love machine, Viscera, Sexual Chocolate, Mark Henry, Val Venus, The Godfather, and
Great Khali.
Great Khali, yeah. So that was like, okay, like, let's just fucking release Khali or something, or let's just release Viscera, or whoever you end up going with, and it doesn't seem all that bad. You start talking about people that are, like, fighting for the number 1 contender spot at WrestleMania, and you know that it's going to be a good group of people. And I like everybody on this list to a certain extent. Some of them more than others, of course, but that's going to be, just, you always have your preferences and stuff. None of these people deserve to be released. And none of these people, by any means, deserve to be erased from the company in their entirety.
At least not yet.
No, I mean, unless they were to do something terrible like what Chris Benoit did, then it doesn't matter who you are. Then you deserve to be booted out and,
doomed to the reputation of being the seen in the WWE Network because Chris Jericho has a match as opposed to Chris Jericho versus Chris Benoit or whatever.
Right, yeah. Chris Jericho has wrestled at this pay-per-view. Doesn't matter who. Don't look it up. We're not going to put him on the network, The
bit where you scroll through to see the matches says Chris Jericho in action or something like that.
Yeah, and if you do a search for Chris Benoit, then it just doesn't come up with anything. It's almost as if you're typing his name wrong or something.
I heard if you do that, you lose your account.
I heard if you say his name 3 times in a mirror. So I don't want anybody to take this as the Chris Benoit thing means that we're putting somebody in a category to be a murderer. That's not what we're doing here. We're doing it as far as their presence in WWE doesn't exist anymore. And the unfortunate thing is you got to put somebody in there. So the group of people that we have to pick from in alphabetical order are Braun Strowman, Elias, Finn Balor, John Cena, The Miz, Roman Reigns, and for some reason Seth Rollins is in the mix now too, because they just couldn't figure out what else to do with him. And my Chris Benoit treatment, it guts me to do this. Elias.
Yeah, it's so unfortunate.
It's just one of those scenarios where, unfortunately, he's been around the least amount of time, and he's done the least amount of things. If you remove anybody else, you remove at least one title reign, and he's never won a title. And it's like, I like Elias a lot, and when this list was the 6 people, I had Elias as my jobber. Because I kind of figured his character can stay the same, and he can lose, but he can still be fun and entertaining. My released is staying under released right now. But, I couldn't take somebody like Roman Reigns and Chris Benoit them, or...
Although some people wish you would.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be a lot of people, I'm sure, that would be like, fuck Roman Reigns, I want him to be erased and never won a world title and stuff. And even for that matter, somebody like an Alberto Del Rio, who I don't like all that much at all, like, he wouldn't be somebody that I would want to erase from the company either, It's... back when I used to hate Sheamus, he wouldn't have been in that scenario. There's very few people that I would be fine with just completely erasing them from the company. I'm totally not fine with Elias being erased.
I was going to say, name one. Name one person in the company that you'd be fine having the Chris Benoit treatment.
Anybody who is so inconsequential that somebody doesn't remember their names. And I always go with this person, I don't know why, but Bam Neely is like somebody who it's like nobody fucking remembers him. Nobody remembers Eric Escobar or Ricky Ortiz or, not anybody like that. And there's some certain people that have had some really shitty personal behind the scenes things, but I still wouldn't want them to be released, like a Jimmy Snuka, because he was really important to a certain time frame. And you don't know how that changes history. But you get rid of Elias, he doesn't change history right now.
Yeah, that's essentially my thought process behind it. Elias, if you were to delete him from history, or essentially he never existed in WWE, then it doesn't impact what happened in WWE up to that point. Like, if you take all the rest of them, like Braun Strowman, although he's never won a title, has been the biggest thing on Raw for the last year or so. So you definitely would be losing a lot by losing him. Balor's former Universal Champion and basically ran NXT for a year as well, so important. John Cena, obviously, you're never going to get rid of him. Roman Reigns, multiple-time world champion. Seth Rollins, multiple-time world champion. The Miz, world champion. Basically your constant Intercontinental champion. So
yeah, Intercontinental God at this point, basically.
Yeah. But Elias, he just doesn't have the stock behind him, which is, it sounds bad because I actually like Elias more than not a lot of the people, but at least some of the people on this list.
Mm-hmm.
He's entertaining me. The segment that he had with Braun Strowman on Raw this past week was one of the best segments, maybe of the year so far, at least in the WWE sense, because it was just so funny and timely. And he's probably never ever going to be a world champion, but he could definitely be a mid-card champion at some point. He's definitely getting a lot of a reaction behind him. And if nothing else, even if he never does win any championships, he's always going to have, if he sticks to this character, the fans are always going to be into him, so they're always going to be at least somewhat invested in his feuds. So,
and when he turns into a babyface too, he's going to be over as fuck.
Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to all of that stuff. But obviously, in this situation, it will never happen, and it never happened in any stretch of the imagination. So.
Right.
We don't even know who Elias is in this situation. At this point, what we've done is essentially make this a six-way elimination chamber match for the Universal Championship.
Sort of drifted his way out of the whole running.
He's off there playing his guitar somewhere in TNA, probably.
Walk with erased. That's what WWE stands for now.
Oh.
So yeah, poor Elias. He gets that unfortunate spot. But somebody has to. That's the whole gimmick of the whole kind of call the spot. So you gotta put that gun to your head and you gotta make that decision. But it's a lot easier for me to pick my released. Finn Balor.
Yes, we've always been in agreement with this side of things.
Yeah, he was the first one that I wrote down outside of the Hall of Famer when I thought that it was going to be the 6-person thing, because Balor, man, he's talented in the ring, but he is overrated as hell, and I am so sick and tired of hearing about how he's like this second coming of like this most amazing thing, and he should be some 20-time world champion or whatever. Dude's good, not great,
I mean,
and his character is just awful.
He doesn't have one. Or if
Right.
he does have one, then it's not a character that you ever want to get behind.
He's a good-looking dude in a leather jacket. That's it.
I mean, I saw this thing like during NXT. I started to grow tired of him pretty quickly because even though he was very good in the ring, first of all, he didn't have the character, and the only character he did have is someone that puts on face paint every special event. And even though it's spectacular and amazing, and people go apeshit over it, what is that? What does he actually do? He just puts on face paint.
Yeah, he does almost the same entrance.
Yeah, just slightly more like crawls on his hands and knees a little bit more.
Yep.
And it's supposed to get a little bit more like fired up or to intimidate his opponents, but they have basically the same match they would have if he wasn't wearing the face paint.
Exactly. He doesn't start cutting promos differently. It's not like when Mick Foley was Cactus Jack or Dude Love, where it was like, that's a big difference.
Yeah.
Cactus Jack, for the most part, was just Mick Foley, so I never really liked the Cactus Jack angle all that much. But, you know, Mankind was totally different from Mrs. Foley's baby boy. And you say, like, Isaac Yankem and Fake Diesel and Kane, totally different characters.
Well, to be fair, we never were meant to expect them to be, like, they're not the same person.
Yeah, but I mean, like,
WWE.
he was managing to take a character and change it up. And
yeah.
There's been plenty of people over the years that have had multiple different personalities. And,
so, like, Cody Rhodes and Stardust.
Yeah, Cody Rhodes and Stardust. Goldust and Dustin Rhodes.
Yeah, they're just completely different.
They figure out a way to do that. Finn Balor is the same exact dude, but with a different... I mean, he might as well be wearing a different coat, even. And just, that's it. Like, with... Ric Flair would have came out with a red robe instead of a blue robe that particular night. Well, it's not going to change his character, and it doesn't change Finn's. And he doesn't have any character when he doesn't have that on, too. So it's not like he is like a Bray Wyatt, where he changes his look, turns into Sister Abigail, and at least he still has character. Finn Balor is just a dude.
I don't... It's interesting because he's one of these people where people like Finn Balor because he's Finn Balor.
Yeah.
And it's the weirdest thing because either they've seen him in New Japan or they saw his work in NXT where he was treated as like the big deal, like the big star. Even if he didn't have a lot of character at that point in time either, he was still treated as the big star. Now he's just another guy in WWE, but people still want to get behind him because they think he's been held down. And in my eyes, he's not being held down. He's just not that good.
He's just not achieving a better level.
Yeah, he's obviously very good in the ring, but he's about as good as probably like a dozen guys on the roster.
Mm-hmm.
He definitely doesn't stand out to me as someone like I see him wrestle, and then I see someone like Roman Reigns or Seth Rollins or Dean Ambrose or Samoa Joe wrestle. It's not like there's a marked difference between it. It's not like I'm watching Finn Balor and going like, oh, it's so much more amazing, or he's so spectacular. He doesn't do anything wildly different. He's pretty much the same as Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins is actually more spectacular in his moveset than Finn Balor is.
Balor kind of strikes me as sort of the same mold as like an AJ Styles, where he's developed enough of a reputation where he basically is his reputation. And if you enjoy what he brings to the table, then you love him. And if you don't, then you don't see it. And I really like AJ Styles. And I'll admit, though, AJ Styles is not the best character in the company. No. And he's not the best promo person. But he is better than Finn Balor on the mic. And
better in the ring,
yeah, he feels more natural in the ring, too. Just all around, he's the notch above Finn Balor that makes me separate the two. And that's where the Finn Balor discrepancy comes in with me, because I go like, he is good in the ring, but he's not super amazing where Finn Balor versus anybody, I'm going to be like, oh man, You know, like when Shawn Michaels would be paired with somebody at, say, like a WrestleMania, and you advertise ahead of time that it's going to be like, we're building towards Shawn Michaels versus Kurt Angle. It's like, shit, that's going to be good. And I still maintain that at a different era, not right now, Dolph Ziggler was somebody that I was looking at and going, man, Dolph can put on a good match with this person. I hope that they pair him up. Or somebody like, I mean, I guess probably AJ Styles would be the best one now, where it's like, I'm looking forward to him being paired off with somebody. I'm not looking at anybody and going, I can't wait for that Finn Balor match. You know?
Yeah, I can understand that entirely. I know there'll be certain people that have saying that we're just being too harsh on him, but I would like that person, all those people, to start leaving the comments and say things that Finn Balor has done since he came onto the main roster. I mean, since he won the Universal Championship and then lost it the very next night. He's actually done.
Fair enough. That wasn't his fault, so we can't really criticize him too much, but it is something that it didn't amount to jack shit, because he didn't go straight into the main event picture. He hasn't been in the main event picture really all that much.
What has he done since he returned from his injury layoff that makes him stand out as somebody that should win the title, other than the fact that because he's small or an underdog, or because you think he hasn't been given like the right treatment in the main event? Like, has he done anything in the past year or so that makes him stand out as somebody who should be in the main event that isn't?
I'll put it this way. Tell me why, if you think Finn Balor shouldn't be the released, tell me why he is more of a Daniel Bryan and less of a Hideo Itami.
Oh, that comparison is harsh, but yeah, it's so true.
Isn't it?
Yeah, no, that's such a good fit.
Because Daniel Bryan, man, he captured that audience. He put on great matches. I started out thinking that he was overrated, and he won me over. Then you got Hideo Itami. He comes in, he's got all the fucking fanfare in the world, and now his character exists of him yelling, "Respect me," and everybody leaving to go get a hot dog.
Yeah, I'd put it this way. Daniel Bryan started with the Yes gimmick, but either became within the Yes gimmick or almost surpassed his own gimmick, essentially. So he was beloved whether he had the Yes chant or not. Balor's beloved because he's got a fancy entrance, and I don't think it's ever gone beyond that point.
Mm-hmm. So that was an easy one released for Finn Balor in that one. I wouldn't want to see him released from the company. I'd even rather see him on 205 Live than to see him released, but somebody's got to go. And I couldn't erase him and put Elias in that spot, because Elias would still be released at that point. I was just like, all right, well, then we're splitting hairs kind of. But man, this was a tough call the spot, because then we get to Jobber, and I'm like, fuck, I don't want to like, I already just erased Elias and I released Finn, and now I gotta make one of these dudes a Jobber. Like, these are
a lot of the Raw's top stars. They're essentially like their 7 top like full-time stars, besides the fact that obviously Samoa Joe's injured at the moment and Dean Ambrose is injured, but these are like the 7 big guys.
And that, I mean, when I had the 6th list and I had Finn Balor at the bottom of the barrel, I had Elias in the Jobber, and I was like, all right, well, you can have some fun with him, like singing songs and then losing a match. Then I was like, well, I can't make Roman Reigns a Jobber. I can't make John Cena a Jobber. I can't, whatever. And I went back and forth between 2 different people, and I ended up going with logic over preference. And I went with The Miz for my Jobber.
We're going to have a very similar list, I can tell. But yeah, I had to go with The Miz as well.
Well, this will spoil, I guess, the mid-card, but who did you go with for the mid-card? Because the person I wanted to put in my Jobber spot was Seth Rollins.
Yeah, a mid-card is like, burn it down. Yes, Seth.
All right, so yeah, let's talk about the difference between those, because in my mind this came down to I don't like Seth Rollins as much as I like The Miz in a character capacity. I like him better in the ring, and if I'm gonna make one of them a Jobber and one of them a mid-carders to me work better as just in-ring people. Jobbers work better to me as characters.
Yeah.
And Heath Slater is a jobber, and he's so good at it because he's got character. In the ring, you put him in the mid card, suddenly he's, I don't know, like I guess like I'd bring him up again, another Apollo Crews, where I don't really care all that much about him losing a match all that much. But if he's a jobber, I can have some fun with it. Seth Rollins, I don't think he could be a fun jobber. The Miz can be a fun jobber because he can be that character that can be over the top and you can want to see him get his ass kicked, you know? Seth, he would just be moody and bitchy about it, and he would, you know, cut some promo about how he's the best, and then he would lose, and I would get sick and tired of hearing it. The Miz would at least have fun with it. So it's weird that it's almost like the Miz gets the lower spot because he's better.
I mean, it's always been this amazing ability of the Miz, and I will call it amazing because most people wouldn't survive the booking that he's been given over the past few years or whatever, despite the fact that he's been given the Intercontinental Championship so many times. It's almost the fact that he has been given that title so many times means that he's never been able to elevate himself above it. It's like, okay, so once, basically if any other wrestler had been given the Intercontinental Championship about 6 or 7 times, you'd assume they're going to win the World Championship at some point later on. But no, he's just been stuck in that. He's been pigeonholed into that area. Like, you can only ever reach this level. This is your ceiling. Whereas for the other guys that are remaining in this list, you kind of say, oh, you probably could be the world champion at some point because you've done it before and you definitely have a mixture of like assets about you that means you could be the world champion again. Whereas The Miz, I'm starting to get into this sense of feeling he's only ever going to be an Intercontinental Champion, never get beyond that at any other time.
Always a bridesmaid, never a bride.
Yeah.
Vice president is your cap kind of thing.
Yeah. It's like the idea that he is, what has always been a great power of his is his ability to lose constantly, but because he's so good on the microphone, it's like losses never affect him. Like, he can always find a way to like explain what the loss was about, or move on from the loss immediately, or get under another person's skin and then win under it during like some sort of underhanded way. He's like a honky tonk man. Of like, if we're going like winning the Continental Championship way, because obviously the honky tonk man is the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion in terms of like a single reign, whereas the Miz has held it more than pretty much anybody. But they're very similar in the sense that they're never going to win it fairly, and they're never going to defend it fairly. So he definitely has exudes a lot more of those characteristics as a champion.
Miz won, I think, one Intercontinental title fairly, if I remember correctly, WrestleMania 29. I think he was a babyface then. With,
when he beat Wade Barrett, yeah.
Barrett, yeah.
Yeah, nobody cared at that point.
He dropped it the next night, so...
Yeah, nobody cared either way. But it's with Seth Rollins, obviously he's been WWE Champion before, and I think his reign of WWE Champion, I don't know whether it's underrated or overrated, which is a weird sense to speak, because I think it's underrated in the sense that he actually carried that belt with a lot of panache, and I think he actually fit the role of WWE Champion. But it's overrated in the sense that it still was a time where business was really bad and creativity was really low. So he wasn't really allowed to flourish a lot, and he was booked terribly to lose a lot of matches on TV or whatever. So it's kind of, but I would want to see him eventually become WWE Champion again, even though he's lost a lot of steam with me. But he desperately needs some like character rehabilitation. Since WrestleMania with the feud with Triple H, that was supposed to be like a launching pad to, all right, now I've defeated Triple H, gotten over my injury, now I'm going to be pushed back to the main event. And he's just stayed leveled out, winning the tag team championships or having on-off feuds with Bray Wyatt and Samoa Joe. So he suffered a lot for it, and there's a lot of apathy towards Seth Rollins now.
Mm-hmm. He's just missing something.
Yeah. But I just think he still definitely he's very good on the microphone, definitely not as good as The Miz, but he still can pull out a really good promo. And he's definitely far better in the ring in terms of just putting out exciting moves. And like you said, I think jobbers are better when they have character, and also better when they're heels that people like to see get beat up. And The Miz can definitely fit into that role. Whereas if you make Seth Rollins a jobber, and he's still a babyface, then he just becomes a loser. He becomes your Apollo Crews.
I think Rollins is in desperate need of going over to SmackDown.
Yeah, I think he would thrive on SmackDown. I think being among this kind of land of the giants thing, and I know it's wrestling, so you can suspend your disbelief, but when you've got Brock Lesnar, Braun Strowman, and Roman Reigns, and people like, I don't know, Samoa Joe or Kane fighting for the title, you can't really see Seth Rollins breaking his way through in the same way that you couldn't see Finn Balor doing it.
Yeah, but then you put him with, like, Shinsuke Nakamura, AJ Styles, those guys, then it's like, all right, yeah, he could beat them at any point.
They should make SmackDown like the lightweight show, like the light heavyweight show. Where you've got like the cruiserweight show, a light heavyweight show, and then the heavyweight show.
And then we can have like the super heavyweight show, where it's just like only the people that are, you know, the Braun Strowman types.
Yeah.
And Nia Jax and everybody. Yeah, so that's the mid-card and the jobber. So that means we've got the same three people for upper mid-card, main event, and Hall of Fame. And that I think there might be a little bit of a change when it comes to upper mid-card and main event, but I'm pretty sure we got the same Hall of Famer.
You'd assume so, but let's wait and see.
Yeah, Mickey James.
Mm.
So upper mid-carder, I am going to argue somebody who I think you might not pick, but maybe we agree. My upper mid-carder is Roman Reigns.
Oh, this was the most difficult choice for me between these two.
You went with Strowman, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can totally see it. That's the thing. There's no wrong answer for this. I mean, you know.
Well, it depends who you ask.
Yeah, if you ask WWE, I'm totally wrong. Yeah. In their mind, it's like, no.
And if you ask every fan, I'm wrong. So
here's my justification behind it. Roman's won the title a bunch of times already. He doesn't need to win it again to be the main event guy. Braun needs to win that world title.
Oh, I completely agree with that.
And in the sense of, if I'm looking at Call the Spot as, say I'm Impact Wrestling, where they get a new leader every couple of months, and when the new leader comes around, they decide that they want to change certain things around, and you know, if you're Billy Corgan, you're like, we're going to make a grand championship, and we're going to do some numbers thing and stuff, which, by the way, grand championship, best design that they've ever had for a title, and best name that they've ever had for a title. Sucks that they just have a weird set of rules for it. If you told me, all right, Call the Spot on the card, you are the new owner of the company, who do you want to be your main eventer holding the belt? And you give me this list, I'm a little bit sick and tired of Roman Reigns holding the belt, and I'm looking at the way that WrestleMania is panning out, and right now I'm panicking about certain things a little bit. Not panicking, I'm not like, you know, breathing into a fucking paper bag and stuff, but I'm looking at, say, the Asuka situation, and I thought it made perfect sense to do Ronda Rousey versus Charlotte Flair, and then include the horsewomen, and you could do something fun with that, and then you could do Asuka and Nia and Alexa Bliss, and then she could be the head of Raw and whatever, and I'm going around with, like, I don't want to see Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar, but now I'm starting to go with maybe there's a chance that Braun Strowman gets into that match. And we'll talk about that a little bit more when we talk about our actual Elimination Chamber predictions. But I'm thinking more about that recently. And the more that I think about it, the more that I go, if you give me Roman versus Strowman versus Lesnar at WrestleMania, Strowman has to win that title. He has to. And there's no argument that I can understand that says, no, you should still have it go to Reigns. Strowman can't be in a match with, what was it, 3 other people? Or was it a Fatal 4-Way or a Fatal 5-Way with Joe and...
Are you talking about the SummerSlam one?
Yeah. 4-Way, right?
Yeah, 4-Way, yeah.
Joe, Reigns, Strowman, and Lesnar?
Yeah. So
he did a Fatal 4-Way for that. He did the number 1 contenders spot. He did the Lesnar Reigns. Yeah, he did the Lesnar Reigns match. Yeah. The Lesnar Strowman match at No Mercy. Then he had the triple threat with Kane and Lesnar. You can't put him in another triple threat scenario and not have him come out on top. Then it's just, how many times do you have Strowman lose to the other person and stuff? Roman Reigns, he's won that title a bunch of times, and he'll get that Universal title, and you could be an upper mid-carder and still be the champion and stuff, but I have to prioritize one of them over them, and Braun Strowman is my main eventer. He gets that fucking belt. He is killing it, and he is over in the sense that Roman Reigns isn't. He's that top guy that fans love to see. Mm-hmm. So that boosts him up a little bit for me, and I can totally understand why Roman Reigns is your main eventer and Braun Strowman's your upper mid-carder, though. So, have at it. What made you go with the company kind of line?
Went with the big dog, the company's big dog. That's my number one, at least in like the main event side of things. I've always drawn the comparisons between Braun Strowman and The Undertaker. Because I just feel like because of his presence and his size, and he's definitely doing a lot better work than Roman Reigns in terms of getting the right crowd reactions, and he's getting them naturally as opposed to occasionally getting the people to say, all right, then we'll cheer him because you want it so badly, so we'll cheer Roman Reigns. But The Undertaker, when he eventually got the title, and he got that pretty early on in his career, but once he got it pretty early in his career, he never had to hold it again for years. And then he'd occasionally win it back and stuff like that. And that's the sort of character I see Braun Strowman eventually fitting into. The guy that has the cool, like, fun monster on monster match, or the big, like, hardcore thing that's going on or whatever. They'll just, like, destroy a few guys, ram them through a wall, whatever, and then move on to the next, like, crazy story. Whereas Roman is, in my mind, the person that once you give him the right character, because they've still never given him the right character, and they've never presented him in the way that he should be presented, whether that's a heel or as a babyface, they've never presented him in the right way. Once you get that, though, he's someone who should be a multi-time world champion.
Mm-hmm.
He already is, but he should be someone who essentially should be like almost every other champion should be Roman Reigns for a period of time. Like he wins it, he loses it, he wins it back, and then he loses it, wins it back. That sort of thing for maybe a year or so.
Kind of a Batista spot.
Yeah, exactly. Like he is. I will obviously admit to the fact that his character, like I said, is broken. He definitely doesn't get the right crowd reactions that he needs at the moment. But whether you were to present him as like a heel and do what the fans are saying to do, is turn him heel, or you present him as a slightly like better babyface in the sense that he doesn't talk so much, he lets his actions speak for him, basically in any situation, and you don't just like stack all the odds against him and have him overcome them. More of a sense of like him just beating the crap out of people. Like his stuff with the Miz is good because it's just him beating up the Miz until the Miz gets a cheap shot in or whatever, and then it's fun because it's sometimes fun to see the bigger guy dominate this small weaselly little prick that you want to see beaten up. Roman, for me, he's better in the ring than Braun is.
Yeah, I'll definitely argue that.
I think in terms of mic skills, he's always been hit and miss, but I think when you give him the right stuff, he can do something better than Braun can. Because Braun, I don't know where they're going with Braun at the moment in terms of like, are they going to let him do his normal voice, or are they going to always have him do his monster voice?
He's got
better catchphrases.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like he seems to be a little bit more comfortable recently to kind of like be a little bit more of a goof now and then, and he's making further strides than what Roman has been doing. Roman is basically the same on the level of his promos that he's pretty much always been.
Yeah.
The past 6 months, Strowman went from barely being able to talk to being pretty damn entertaining.
He's like I said, like he's definitely got a lot more of a connection to the audience, and that is through his catchphrases that have gone over really quickly. Whereas Roman's never had a real catchphrase that's got a lot of attention, but he definitely still is over with the demographic that WWE still want to appease to at this point in time. He definitely still has like a good following among the kids, mothers, along those sort of lines. I think with him, also when it takes us towards WrestleMania, obviously, if we were to have a situation where it was a three-way match, I totally agree that Strowman should be the one to win it. But Reigns needs to beat Brock Lesnar one-on-one. It's been like this journey since WrestleMania 31. And obviously, it's not exactly been like they've always been confrontations with each other or anything like that. But he never got the chance to beat Lesnar one-on-one when it looked like he was about to. So there needs to be some finality to that match. I know, obviously, you're not looking forward to it. I'm sure a lot of people follow the same way that you're saying as well. And I'm not saying I wanted it to be for the Universal Championship. I would have been happy with it not having the championship involved and it's still happening at WrestleMania. Because I think it's almost like the thing that Roman needs to get off his back, almost. It's not like he hasn't had success outside of that loss, because obviously he's won the championship multiple times. But he's never proven that he's better than Lesnar. When Lesnar's around, whether he's a champion or not, he would always feel like the bigger deal to Roman Reigns. And Roman needs to get that win over him. Whether that was to happen either at WrestleMania, if they do carry on with the one-on-one thing, or if they have the three-way, Strowman wins, and then they have the grudge match at SummerSlam or something. Like as Lesnar's last match.
See, that's where I think that they went the wrong way here. I don't think that they, and I've been saying this for a year, I think it was a mistake that they went with the Goldberg Lesnar thing at Mania. I really think that should have been Jericho and Owens. But even if you kind of go, all right, that's something that they're tying your hands to and you can't get around it and stuff. I really think Lesnar needed to drop that title at SummerSlam to Roman Reigns instead. And going into WrestleMania this year, it would have been a lot better if we wouldn't have seen Braun versus Roman a bunch of times.
Mm.
And if Braun would have beaten Roman at WrestleMania this year.
Yeah, that would have
That, to me, because then you get the Roman Reigns beating Brock Lesnar thing. And then he starts getting cocky. And then he's the heel. And then Braun Strowman's the babyface. And it suddenly becomes, we've set up this big babyface to beat this big heel for the championship. Braun Strowman could have won the Royal Rumble this year. That would have been another good thing. And we could have kind of had, you could have really checked off all the things that you needed to check off other than Roman Reigns versus John Cena necessarily, which I thought was another possibility that should have been for WrestleMania this year. But you can do that another WrestleMania. You know, you could do that next year's WrestleMania if you can get The Undertaker this year. And then you miss out on Braun Strowman, Brock Lesnar, but who's to say you don't do that at WrestleMania next year? You know, you could, WrestleMania 35 could be Roman Reigns versus John Cena, Braun Strowman versus Brock Lesnar, I don't know, AJ Styles against Seth Rollins, or, you know, like some kind of pairing when it comes to whatever like that would be and stuff. But now you've done Strowman Lesnar a bunch of times, you've done Reigns Lesnar a bunch of times, you've done Reigns Strowman a bunch of times, and now you pair all three of them up and it's not going to mean as much. So
yeah,
this could have been, you got that Roman Reigns win at SummerSlam. Lesnar had his title reign from WrestleMania to SummerSlam. He beat Goldberg, so he beat the negativity when it comes to that. And then you still set up Strowman. It would have been pretty good. WWE. But instead, you went with Lesnar just retains against everybody throughout every fucking thing throughout the year.
Yeah, it's not like anyone's going to be like super shocked. Like the things that they do where they've been protecting the F5 so much. It's not like anyone's going to be shocked when Roman Reigns kicks out of the F5 at WrestleMania.
No. The only way that it'll be shocking is if he kicks out of an F5 from like the Titantron.
No, I still wouldn't be surprised at that.
Yeah. To be fair, I'd still be like, I don't know, it might not be the end of the match.
Yeah, he might still be alive. You never know. But I think with these two, it is easy to swap them round. These two should be the people that are fighting for the championship for the majority of the next couple of years or so.
Yeah.
They should be the two constants that are always in it. Whether they're both baby faces or one of them turns heel again or something along those lines.
Well, that means we have the same Hall of Famer.
Mm-hmm.
And this was an easy call. John Cena.
Ba-ba-doo.
Yeah, it's there's no argument otherwise.
No, well, he's essentially he might as well be in the Hall of Fame now.
Mm-hmm. He could have been in the Hall of Fame almost 10 years ago, it seems.
Yeah, he was already holding the title enough times by that point. By 2008, he was probably already a 5-time champion at that point. Now he's a 16-time champion.
Going into the 2008 Royal Rumble, he was on par with the legends that were in the match.
Oh,
so
yeah.
it was John Cena, Triple H, Shawn Michaels, Undertaker, that kind of Batista, Kane.
Yeah, he was on their level.
And even above Batista when it comes to that.
Oh, yeah.
He was that guy that was just like, wow, he's in the match. He's definitely winning, and he's a multiple-time world champion and all that. And he's just upgraded his career ever since then. Now he's semi-retired, sort of. He's kind of like on his way out a little bit. Guaranteed be a Hall of Famer that is just, there's literally no argument against it. The only thing stopping John Cena from going down in history as one of the top 5 superstars of all time is if he pulls a Chris Benoit. And at that point, holy shit.
Yeah, I know.
That would be like just erasing
although Wago
Vince McMahon,
Yeah. Although Wago would be pretty happy because it would involve like the death of Nikki Bella. So
yeah, there's not too much to talk about when it comes to John Cena as a Hall of Famer. It's just
and I'm not too sure everyone is aware about his accomplishments, so maybe we should list them all.
Well, he wrote a children's book recently.
Well, yeah. Like, what do you say?
Sings his own theme song.
The idea is 16-time world champion, multi-time United States champion, tag team champion with basically anybody that he was feuding with at the time. That was the story of John Cena. When every time he won a tag team title, it was always somebody he was going to be fighting the next pay-per-view.
Yeah. Otunga and Michaels and
Batista. And Miz even.
That era.
But he's the guy that, it's weird because I've seen a lot of people talking about the way Cena's been booked since being like around 2016, 2017 onwards as someone who should be protected a lot more than he is, which is the weirdest thing that people were saying, because he was the guy that's saying, oh, he should lose more than he does because he's always winning and it's like there's no predictability about it. And now he's losing more often. People saying, well, he doesn't mean as much now, does he? Because he's losing all the time. It's like, what the fuck do you want? Like, he can't win and lose every match that he's doing. He can't win and lose at the same time.
Yeah, he's in a weird spot right now where if he were to win that Elimination Chamber and win that title at WrestleMania, people would be like, ugh, there goes John Cena winning his 17th world title.
Yeah, but if he was
yet at the same time, it's like, if he loses, nobody's going to be shocked because it's going to be like, oh, John Cena's not winning this fucking match. And it's like, what?
Yeah, I know, it's such a weird situation to be. Like, I've always been on the camp things, probably more unpopular depending on who you'd ask, that Cena should win more often than he loses, and he should be maintained as a big star. And so when he does
want
lose,
him to win that 17th world title.
Oh, he definitely. I'm pretty sure he will. I think it'd be so odd for them to keep him on 16, just because it feels quite weird to have him and Ric Flair as obviously both brilliant stars in their different era. But if he's gotten 16 now and he's still the age that he is now, then he needs to get 17, really, because just staying on 16 feels quite weird.
Like, I'd be cool with, like, a scenario. I would rather him do, like, a legitimate title reign and stuff, but I would even be cool with the scenario where they build up John Cena saying, look, I don't have that much time left. I am going to do my tour, and I'm retiring at WrestleMania, but I want to retire as the 17-time world champion. And you track his story, and he wins the Royal Rumble, and he beats whoever he beats. I'm assuming at this point, the best option would be Roman Reigns.
Yeah.
And he wins that 17th world title, and the next night on Raw, he relinquishes it and says, all right, I'm no longer an active roster member. Yeah. I'd even be cool with that, but I'd rather it be just John Cena at some point this year just wins that world title.
I've always liked this. I've always liked the idea of the story behind it, is that he gets like multiple attempts to win the title and he constantly loses, and then he cheats to win it. I think it's the one last opportunity to turn him heel.
Hollywood John Cena.
Exactly. It'd be so amazing if you won it with a figure four. To be fair, it'd be amazing if you won like the 17th world title with a figure four leg lock.
That'd be so awesome. He does that the leg drop from the top rope thing.
Yeah. That would get him over.
Yeah.
That would get a pop if he was to do that. Like, some people would probably be annoyed if he was just to win in his normal way, but if he was to win with a figure four leg lock, people would just go crazy about it. But he definitely fits into the vibe of the Hall of Famer, that he still can lose, and he can definitely put the main eventers over. He could be the guy that is used to elevate Strowman and used to well, he's obviously already lost to Roman Reigns, but he can be used to sort of like a counter to that as well, or build someone who you think is currently in the mid-card but could definitely get to the main event level. You give them a feud with John Cena. And obviously if you want them to actually eventually get to the main event, they have to win the feud, but you can still give Cena a few wins or make him look good in the process. I don't think Cena should be the main eventer in a way that Mickie James would be in the women's example, that loses probably more often than they win. He should still win more often, but lose when it matters.
Yeah.
When you actually want to do something with somebody that he's facing.
So that's we disagreed not on all that much. I mean, I think we actually have the same exact list outside of upper mid card and main event, right?
Yeah, and that could swap quite easily. Like,
yeah,
depends when you ask me.
I was surprised about that. I thought that we would have a little bit more contention about maybe even like the Chris Benoit thing or something like that. Yeah,
I mean, that's a lot of contention.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I'm really curious to see what everybody else puts down for their list, especially with that new edition of the Chris Benoit treatment, erased, nullified, whatever you want to call it, type of thing.
We should do that for like the Smack Talk panel. Who gets the Chris Benoit? Well, essentially just give them 7 people that have been on the Smack Talk panel, and you just which one gets the Chris Benoit treatment.
Oh, there's been a couple of people that have been nullified, I bet.
But you guys won't know about that.
If you look back on the list of people we've had, actually, who do I have on this list here? I'm gonna look that up while I have my notes open.
Yeah, while you look up, I'll just give them like the list. So you've got me, you, Kalen, Payden, Drew, Wago, and who'd be one more person?
15,
I'd say
16,
maybe
17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 20, 25 people other than myself have been on the Smack Talk show.
Wow.
And there's essentially 10 people that people can name.
Yeah, I know, even I was struggling. I've been on it, so.
Yeah, I mean, the most amount of people that people know, there's you and I, there's Payden, there's Kalen, there's Drew, there's Wago, there's Sean. Robert's been on recently, so he's somebody that's fresh in people's minds. Obviously, Angie. But yeah, not many people remember. Yeah, Dace too. Dace was actually the first one. Not many people remember, say, Vic or Jeff or Paul. Like those kind of things and stuff. I've always been tempted to do like some kind of like belt or bury of like us or something, like finisher versus finisher. Who can end an episode better? That kind of thing.
Yeah, I'd be slightly. Yeah, I think there might be slight worries about that one. Though, so maybe we'll just keep that in the memory rather than actually implement it.
Well, not only when it comes to the Smack Talk panelists, but also for the Elimination Chamber match people. Tell us what your thoughts are in the comments section below, what your rankings are, and everything else like that. Make sure that you hit that subscribe button and check off the bell, ring that for notifications for the next couple of things we have coming your way. The next one, of course, is going to be the hot tags, because that always comes first in the week. And next week is, I think it's Elimination Chamber, right?
Yes, I believe that's the predictions.
So Elimination Chamber comes up, and then at the end of the week, that's going to be one of those scenarios where we might end up having February's mailbag technically on March. if we record on Thursday or Friday that week, it'll be March 1st or 2nd.
I mean, the mailbag was late that month, so
yeah,
short month.
That's coming up in 2 weeks, though, so start thinking about those mailbag questions. Before that, we will have our Elimination Chamber predictions next week, and then start heading off into the whole March thing. Coming up soon on smarkoutmoment.com, towards the end of the month, we're going to be starting the Smark Madness tournament, which you guys had voted for out of all the different suggestions. The what was it? No, I'm trying to think if it was. Yeah, okay. Like I know there was two of them. It was either pay-per-view names or the gimmick matches, but it's the best gimmick matches of all time. So we have our field of some different choices for that, and I've figured out the bracket now and tried to pair things up as well as I could to where we've like all the cage matches are in their own quadrant now. With two other ones because there's only 6. And
I haven't asked. I wanted to ask about the list. Are there pole matches on there?
The what matches?
Pole matches.
Oh yeah, that's definitely one of the options.
Because I'm definitely championing that one.
That's
I think
every week in the miscellaneous group because there's like there's a breakdown. I'll give you guys in a couple weeks and stuff like that. But that's something to pay attention to, and pretty much anything else that's happening on there. Another thing I want to mention is the Fanboys Anonymous side of things. Coming up soon, we're going to hit that whole thing where we're going to figure out if that channel is going to be monetized, continuing going on in the future or not. I just last night uploaded my Black Panther movie review, real quick edition. It's fucking good. So go check out that. If you want to show your support for Fanboys Anonymous to help us out to make sure that we do stay monetized, watch as many videos as you can to boost up our watch time. And another way to do that is to support us through Patreon. So patreon.com/fanboysanonymous. Same thing for Smark Out Moment, patreon.com/Smark Out Moment. Whether you can donate $1, $5, $1,000 a month, maybe if you're rich. If you are, I love you.
Or stupid.
You should totally.
If you're rich or stupid, donate $1,000.
If you're rich and stupid, boy, do I have something to talk to you about.
Oh, hello, Mr. President. I didn't realize he was a fan.
Those are, well, he's in the WWE. He gets the Hall of Fame spot, right?
Yeah.
God.
Although most people wish he got the crispen treatment.
You know, at this point, you might as well. That would be actually a fun addition to do in the future, to do like
Celebrity Hall of Famers.
Non-wrestler people in a Call the Spot type thing. Be like, who's your main eventer out of Pete Rose and
Drew Carey,
Bob Uecker, and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, that'll do us in for this, everybody. Just want to toss it over to Callum for any kind of things that he wants to plug as well. What do you got?
Well, you can, if you're so inclined, follow me on Twitter at Wigmeister14. And just check out all the weekly articles coming out on Smark Out Moment this week and every other week. There's 2 weeks in a year, so you've got plenty of time. Stuff to check out.
At least 52 editions of some of these.
Yeah, at least.
Some triple threats, battle the brands, different things like that.
Yeah.
They're weekly for a reason. They're weekly. That's why. So we will see you when we see you, everybody. This has been another Smark Out Moment, and we are being counted out.